Welcome back for another episode of Strive for 25. Joel Farrell here, and looking forward to sharing with you our guest. Welcome to another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast. Joel Farrell here. I've got another amazing guest. I can't even talk today. Jeez. Michael, please introduce yourself to our guest today.
Hey, so my name is Michael Fritzius. Everybody calls me Fritz because I understand I have an eye chart for a last name. I'm a multipreneur. I run a couple of companies, one with my wife and one by myself, and glad to meet you today.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while. I mean, you got a lot of stuff that you dig into, a little bit of a tech expertise as well, I think. So you're in the podcast world. You've got another business that you guys run together. As an entrepreneur, your own story, how you got to where you gotten. So looking forward to digging. So can you again explain some of the different businesses that you're involved in right now, as your
Sure thing.
face is coming
So
in and off the screen here? Sorry.
exactly. I'm just going to leave my camera off. I promise, I look like my profile picture. If this is going up on YouTube, I look the same. I have a hat on, so whatever. But yeah, so the two businesses I've got, one is it's a full service podcast agency, but it's really built from the ground up to help with coaching. So people that are in the coaching space, people that are wanting to attract more of the kind of client that they help the best, we design podcasts to bring more of those people in. Because I found that coaches are just really, really good at communicating. They ply their craft through the spoken word. So if we give them a microphone and we give them a good funnel where more of those kind of people come in and they can have those conversations, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to become clients later on of those coaches. So while it's a podcast agency, it's really in the lead generation space. That's the takeaway. That's what they get. And the other business is a clean living products company. And what I mean by clean living is zero chemicals, zero artificial anything, zero crap. And it's actually the name of the company is called Exactly Zero. And I run that with my wife, Charlotte, and we have four girls, ages 6, 8, 11, and 12. They help as well. And we build it. We make all these different products. We have more than 60 products that we make out of our home, and we've only really been in business like less than 2 years, but we've been making these products for ourselves for more than 10. So my brain gets a complete workout every single day. It's like either I'm doing techie stuff or I'm doing smell good stuff. If I get, wore out doing one or the other, I can just switch over and do something else. So it's crazy, but I love it. I love it.
So you mentioned 2 years in business with the clean product space, and then the podcast side of things. How long have you been involved with that?
Well, the podcast company, Podcastify Me is the name of it. It's been in existence for a little more than a year. Actually, LinkedIn told me that my 1 year anniversary happened this week. So, my LinkedIn's been blowing up with congrats on the work anniversary. I'm like, what work anniversary? Oh, Podcastify Me. Cool. But I mean, I've been podcasting myself since July 2019, and the type of thing that I do with Podcastify Me, I've been doing it for probably a couple years. It wasn't officially a company until a year ago, but I've been doing little bits here and there, just sharpening my skills, making sure I understand like how can I offer more service? How can I provide even better value than what I've been doing? So, I don't think I'm ever going to arrive anywhere. It's an ongoing what next, what next, what next, and learning as we go. And it's already opened up some doors to some different offerings that I think could start up another business, not a podcasting business, but reusing a lot of the same technology that I use for Podcastify Me, but it's for authors. I can talk about that a little bit, but it's in its infancy. It's like in the embryo stage. So who knows what it's going to be at 6 months from now.
So let's dig deeper on the podcast side of things, and we'll come back to the other piece of the puzzle. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of you build a business, you start from scratch. There's a lot of things that are similar, regardless of the type of business.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, the purpose of a podcast is what? Just
Purpose,
across the board, the purpose is what?
visibility, visibility. And what we've found is, the number of new podcasts that are going to come out. And I heard somebody say there's going to be 500,000 more. in 2023 that haven't even been conceived of yet. They're going to hit. And the reason why people make a podcast is they want to be visible. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They've got some kind of message that they want to share with the world. And now that people are used to the medium, like podcasting 20 years ago was like, I don't even think it was called that back then. But when they started saying, oh, hey, I've got a podcast, I mean, it was like cutting edge. Like, what? You've got to have like all kinds of crazy equipment and stuff. And I mean, here you've got a microphone. I'm in my truck. We're doing a podcast together. It's so ubiquitous that it's not even funny. And so, how do you distinguish yourself from all the other podcasts that are out there? Well, I mean, the purpose is still visibility, but visible to the right people because now we can segment, we can get our message in front of the right people, be seen and heard, invite the right kinds of guests on, and be visible that way. So it's an exciting time. I mean, people understand the medium. It's not new. It's not like crypto. It's not like different things that are out there that people don't understand. It's like everybody knows what a podcast is. So time to take it to the next level.
So visibility to the right people,
Right.
that's the name of the game, right? I mean, people's branding, the digital brand, is becoming so much more important. People's eyes and ears and attention is becoming more important as the vehicle of medium is shifted from the traditional TV, cable, satellite to YouTube to streaming to all kinds of the online TikToks and Instagram. So it's just an evolving industry, but to capture someone's attention and then capture the right attentions is so valuable. And if you can figure out that recipe, right, that's the key, right? I mean, to
It
find the right
is.
people. So are you okay sharing a little bit more about like how you guys find the right, so you're coaching clients, finding the right eyes and ears?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you're asking about secret sauce, man. Yeah. No,
Well,
I'm fine talking
maybe
about it. It's
not the
cool.
how, but maybe let's dig into an example of somebody that's doing their thing, and then you're getting them, an example of their right type of audience.
Sure thing. Well, one of our clients, his name's Keith. He is a business and leadership coach. He works with executives as well. And what we did when we started working with him was dig deep into who is your ideal client profile. Because if you have a persona in mind, there's got to be like thousands more people nearly identical. They've got the same kind of challenges, they got the same kind of personality. There's a reason why that kind of person works well with you. Then the next question is, okay, where are their concentrations of that kind of person? And usually if you're doing more B2B type of work, you can find them on LinkedIn. If you're doing more B2C type work, like, you know, uh, grieving spouses or something like that, like they lost a spouse or something, they're probably going to be on Facebook more than likely. So knowing where to go find those people is key. And then structuring the messaging to say, hey, don't know if you're interested, but there is a podcast that you can come talk with this person and solve this kind of problem. And if they resonate with that message, they're going to show up, they're going to apply, then they're going to schedule, and they're going to be able to talk with that coach or that mentor. And the end result is, and if I'm not answering the question to enough detail, let me know. But the end result is we're pulling in people from all over the world that are ready to talk about the very thing that this coach understands how to fix. And we always make sure that the coach is aware that, hey, this person should come away with a good takeaway, some kind of homework or some kind of action item or tip or something that helps with the next conversation. Always keep a clear next step, always keep a next conversation in mind and keep following up with them, because you just had an amazing 30 or 60-minute call basically with this person. Follow up with them, see how they're doing. How are they hanging in there? Because you're building relationships. That's the key. So I don't know if that answers the
Yeah,
question or if you
yeah,
want me to
no,
attack.
that's good. I mean, that's exactly kind of what I was thinking. So then the coach, they are an expert at a certain field or specialty, and then they're able to bring on somebody that may have a similar need for the problem that this coach fixes. And then the actual audience, right? I mean, that that person that's out there that's going to listen to them, how does that fit in to the whole puzzle? Somebody, so that coach, what kind of audience are they attracting? Is it general? Is it specific?
It is specific. So one thing that we do is we always make sure first to play on the principle of we all have lazy brains. And I'm saying this as a human with a human brain. I promise I'm human. I have a lazy brain, right? Um, it takes effort to get somebody convinced to first come listen to a podcast because you're asking them to invest 30 minutes at least of their time to hear an episode. Well, what am I going to get for my 30 minutes of my time that I'm never going to get back? Well, what if you cut 30-second clips out of there? 30 seconds is a piece of cake. You can watch that sitting on the toilet. Um, so when they watch a 30-second clip and listen and hear the conversation and they can make that decision, the right kind of person is going to make a decision of, I think I want to go hear the rest. Either this sounds like a really engaging conversation, or this guest sounds like they've got the same kind of problem that I know I'm dealing with. So maybe I can go glean some information from them, right? And there's a couple things that we do in order to attract the right listenership and the right guest pool. And one is we share those clips and some social media blurbs on the coach's social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. But we also take those same teasers and those clips and those social media blurbs and we share them with the guest. We say, hey, as part of working with us, thank you for being on the show. But as part of this, we put together some cool collateral for you. And all you have to do is pick one of these three teasers. We pick the three best ones out of the bunch and paste in this social media blurb. We don't want you to have to spend a ton of time figuring this out. Just stick a video in there. That's a teaser and paste in the blurb. Boom, done. And just ask them to share with their network. And then there's people, because birds of a feather flock together, right? There's people that they're probably friends with or they're connected with that will resonate with that because that person shared it, that guest shared it. And they probably are like, man, if they can talk about that with my buddy Joe Schmo or whatever, I wonder if this person would talk with me. Yes, I'm going to apply to be on the show. Why would I not? So it ends up you real quick start getting like a lot of cross pollination, but you start attracting a lot more people. And that that phenomenon's compounded with every guest you have on the show because they have their own network. So every time you have a person on, you increase the chances of finding your next best client.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So cutting it, putting it out there, sharing it, using the network, leveraging the network, and then doing it over and over and over. So when all is said and done, if you've got a coaching client, and they're doing this, for a period of time, what are some of their end goals or end vision of what they're trying to be able to do with their business? Scale up their clientele and grow their revenue. And like, how does this all fit together from a longer term perspective?
Yeah, longer term perspective, you said the word scale. That's the big thing. So a lot of people want to increase their one-to-one clientele. Maybe they've got the bandwidth to handle 20 clients, monthly coaching clients, and they're at 12. So how do we help find eight more? Maybe they want to get to the point where they want to do group coaching where they have, a cohort of 20 people, but each person pays a certain amount. It's not the full amount that you would get with a one-to-one, understandably enough. That's another thing. They want to have that group coaching program that they can funnel people into. Hey, if you like this episode, and you think I can help you, then let's talk because maybe my group coaching program would be a fit. Another avenue is if they have a course, like a digital course that they're putting together, where you can get it for, $497 a year or something like that and have access to all the course material, then that's another, level that they can put in, or they've got a book to sell, or they've got a networking group or a Facebook group or something. There's always some end goal. And that's the really cool part about podcasting that I had to learn back in July of 2019. I'm like, the podcast itself is not the end goal. The end goal is not for me to whip out my mic, come sit out in the truck in, hottest balls weather in the middle of the summer and record episodes. Like my end goal I found was I want to build amazing relationships because that leads to business later. And then I just figured out how to systematize it and do it at scale for myself. And then, well, I can do this for other people too. But yeah, that's the main thing is they want to increase their clientele, they want to increase their client base, and they need a way to help people feel good and safe about working with them. Taking on a coach as a client is a big ask. You got to really trust the person in order to know, hey, I'm going to trade some financial energy to get help in areas that I know I need help with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an interesting thing. The whole coaching field is really blown up. I mean, online courses, coaching, you know, and I've had a lot of people ask me, why do you spend money on? Because I'm in sales coaching. I've been in Southwestern consulting coaching for a number of years, and something that I believe in. And you know, the question, well, how does it work? I mean, why would you spend that much time and money into it? And you know, when somebody asks you a question versus just telling you, it's the same information, and
Hmm.
but it's just delivered in a different order of events. But that question is going to elicit a different response and force that person to respond on their own, as opposed to just delivering it. So it's received differently. And
Yeah.
that example by itself, you know, just paints the picture of a lot of words of how and why coaching can work if it's done properly and that person invests and puts the time and work in. So it's just an interesting thing about coaching. It's just become so prevalent. People making a lot of money, especially online, you know, selling
Hmm.
this stuff, online courses, just a whole genre that's blowing up.
Yeah, it
But
is.
yeah, go ahead. I was done.
Oh,
I was done.
um, yeah, I mean the coaching space is huge and the value that I see in it, which I get asked that question too, and I'm not a coach. It's like, why would you pay for coaching? And it's like, when you've got skin in the game financially, it makes you pay attention. It's like you paid your dues, but if you just sit there and wait for the information to come to you, it's not going to work. Okay. And a good coach will say, hey, this person isn't really in it to win it. They're not, they think it's going to be spoon fed to them. But really good coaches, and this goes back to why, podcasting is a great way for them to build clientele, is asking the question gets deep into somebody's brain. If you just give them the answer and say, hey, do this, get back to me in 2 weeks, it's going to be surface level. But if you make them have to like haul up the water out of the well of their mind, it's going to take a while, but it's going to be carving out new synapses along the way. And I do have a coach that I work with, and she's an NLP coach. And man, she is like scary at how well she can get into my head because I know I've got some blocks and things in there banging around. And it's like, okay, I need to first identify what's going on in my head, but I also need to know what to do about it and what kinds of questions should I be asking myself. And she gets in there in an hour. I'm like, get out of there. Like, poking around on stuff. Come on.
And they're around new synapses for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Love it.
my emotional support neuropathy or whatever it is, like neuro weirdness. It's my emotional support weirdness. I can't think of a word. That's okay. It'll come to me at 3 in the morning. I'll call you like, Joel,
Right.
word, I found it. Found it.
Voice text it.
That's right. So
Yeah. I
what's the
mean,
next question?
well, we're going down this path, right, of coaching and you know how and why it works, and then the podcast piece of it is just one piece of the puzzle. And just like a lot of other things, like in sales, right, like if you make one phone call, it's only going to get you so far. You better be prepared to make 10, 20 phone calls if you want to be able to get in front of somebody or get in front of a prospect and build a relationship. Building a relationship takes time, not just one phone call. Just
Hmm.
like what we're talking about with the podcast, right? Like it's just one piece of the puzzle to be able to get to the end result. And we talked about podcast. One of the end goals is to build visibility, right? And then in your business, which is very, very unique. I've never seen or heard of a person in the podcast industry talk about it as a lead generation tool or having it defined so specifically towards lead generation. So the visibility, get the messages out there. So then we're cutting it and putting it out on the different social media platforms. And all together it becomes a whole marketing strategy, right? I mean, what's the full
Hmm.
picture? Anything I'm missing in that equation in terms of the podcast is one piece of the puzzle versus the rest?
So it's part of a bigger ecosystem, and you're right about that. The question to always ask is, well, what's next after that? You just had an amazing conversation. What are you going to do with that? And what I stress so often with people whenever we're talking about podcasting is, yes, it's great content. It's amazing content. I mean, if you've got even a video podcast, you're engaging the eyes and the ears of people that are consuming it. But more than that, it's an amazing way to build relationships with people. And it's, I don't want to say it's magic, but I started getting a lot deeper relationships when I started podcasting. It supercharged my ability to network with people. It just attracted more of the kind of people that A, like me as a person, and B, are more likely to want to do business with me. So, you know, that bigger ecosystem really, you probably heard that the phrase find your tribe. Everybody's got to find your tribe, right? This is a way to do that. This is a way to do that. So that's the big ecosystem that I'm talking about. There's everybody's got probably 500 people that if they can just locate those people, they'd be set for life. Everybody's looking out for everybody. Everybody's pulling their own weight. Everybody's looking at how can I serve the people around me? 500 people. And I think you can do that with a podcast. I haven't achieved it yet, but I'm getting there.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not one to know, a lot about the numbers and, you have your Joe Rogans out there that are just killing it in terms of just visibility and views. And I don't know what kind of money he's making, but a lot of people, they get into social media, they get into podcasting because they want to make money. Right.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't know if that's ever going to be in my fate. It's not really my goal, that a lot of other purposes of it. But like you mentioned, somebody may have the goal of being able to monetize at some point in time, but all these other exterior pieces of the puzzle, can turn into valuable opportunities. Like you mentioned, building your tribe. It's knocked down some doors. For me personally, just by being able to use the word podcast, as stupid as it sounds, it just gives you a little bit more, ability to attract someone's attention that otherwise you may not be able to do. And so
Yeah.
it's very interesting as I've been doing this for 40 months. But and you've been doing it a lot longer. I mean, when you see some of the other clients, other people in this world, I mean, what are you seeing them doing, you know, today versus what they were doing before they started, in terms of confidence or in terms of reaching their goals? I mean, are you able to kind of equate that in language form?
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm seeing these days is the fact that it's so easy to start a podcast means that people can create one and have it be super, super targeted. Like if you had some passion or some hobby or something that is so unique and you look at it and say, man, if I started a podcast about that, I may have like 100 listeners. 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been worth it. You'd pick something that's like, well, there's a million people out there that would listen to this, right? But if you only had like a few dozen or 100 people, and that's the tribe that vibes with you now more than ever, people are starting podcasts about that. I'll tell you about one of the most unique podcasts I ever heard about was it's called Superhuman Public Radio. And I interviewed the host of the show, and it's actually a giant operation. I said, how did you get started with this? Because it's a show that is built to make it sound like a segment on NPR, but SPR, Superhuman Public Radio. It's a universe where, yeah, superhumans and mutants are kind of mainstream. Like, not everybody has superpowers, but you're not surprised to hear on the news that there's somebody in North Dakota that can blow fire out of his hands and he uses it to clean snow off of his driveway everywhere, right? But then they have like commercials interspersed throughout. They're like, "Do you have lasers that come out of your eyes sometimes? Have we got the product for you?" And I'm like, "Man, how did you come up with this?" And he said, "Well, I hang around a lot of people in theater and voice actors and people that read audiobooks, and they were out of work because when COVID happened, everything shut down. And he said, so we decided, well, let's make this happen. Let's come up with scripts and let's come up with a way to do it in a distributed fashion. But we're going to make this podcast and we're going to create these stories and craft them and make something really engaging. And I'm like, holy crap, dude. Like 10 years ago, this never would have happened. Nobody would think to do something like this. Nobody. But the ability to create stuff like that, and I mean, that's the same technology in general is enabling people to just manifest with almost godlike capability, like at the speed of thought almost. We're almost at that singularity that everybody's talking about. Dude, we're almost there. And the ability to just crank out a podcast is like, hey, just make it happen, pull the trigger, do it, and start putting it in there. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really cost you anything except your time. You learned a lot. Take what you learned, apply it to something else. Like I haven't seen that. Haven't seen that anywhere until just recently. So yeah,
I
that's what I'm
love it.
seeing. People are
I love it.
people are able to just like dig into a niche and go and not worry about doing things the wrong way. They value the experience more than ever.
Value the experience. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing for me is that like, you know, I a year ago, shoot, 5 months ago, I never even a podcast never even entered my brain. It just happened. This Strive for 25 platform, something that's been on my mind in general about helping. What can I do to help the everyday person be able to get ahead and build wealth? I'm in the finance industry, in the mortgage world, and so I'm looking at people's finances every single day, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So that's something that I've been thinking about for a while, but a podcast was never even entered my brain. And just one day I woke up, this is what I'm going to do, and decided to do it. And I mean, talked to a couple of people, and Zoom, a computer, a camera, a microphone.
Hmm.
That's pretty much it, right? I mean, am
Doesn't
I,
take
am I
much,
missing
man.
anything? So,
You're
and
not. You're not. And that's the thing too, is that there's a shrinking number of people that they still think this, but you don't need to have a ton of expensive equipment. You don't even need a sound booth.
so, and the biggest thing that I had to get out of my head was, like, is it good enough? Am I gonna have enough to talk about? Am I gonna be able to add enough value? And I just had to get over myself that at the end of the day, like starting out, there may only be two people or four people
Yeah,
or no people listening to it. And that's okay because the process is more important than the results because it's going to take episodes 10, 20, 100, 200 for it to even have an impact on a bigger scale. So I had to get out of my own way, mentally
right.
to get to that level. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of other people out there. But you mentioned like, hey, find your tribe. And if it's 100 people and you can impact 100 people, that's then do it, right? I mean, like
Yeah, do
it
it.
doesn't have to be a million people, find your niche, find your tribe, like you mentioned, and just do it.
Yeah.
So, and we could talk hours and hours on this part of it as well, but I'm sure this takes up, a number of hours, days in your week, but there's this other thing that you and your wife are working on. So can you share a little bit more about the other business and, at what point in time did you say, hey, been doing this on our own for our personal life until we said, let's turn this into business. What was that process like?
Well, the process was we got pestered into starting a business, man. So back in 2012, I got diagnosed with cancer, and it wasn't a terrible kind. I mean, if you leave it go, it'd be a problem. But had his surgery, didn't have to have chemo or radiation. It was good, clean bill of health. And we decided, okay, we need to start making our own stuff because there's toxins everywhere. Anything chemical, any kind of preservative, it's like you use it for years and years. It's gonna add up after a while. So we decided to take control and make a change and change what we eat and what we drink, and also what we use on our bodies. And we originally started out doing this ourselves, but I kid you not, man, we had probably a couple years of people saying, wow, you guys make your own sunscreen, you make your own lip balms and bug spray. Like, you ever think about selling this? You should sell this. And they eventually started saying, you should sell this to me. How much do you want for that? Like, Charlotte was selling stuff right out of her purse practically. And we said, well, I guess it's time to start a business. And we kicked things off. We started on Etsy. We needed a low bar of entry. And eventually we outgrew Etsy. And I still remember the one time when I said, I'm going to see if I can generate some sales here. So I got on LinkedIn because I had like 8,000 connections on there at the time. And I made a post and I said, hey, I would like to ask you guys if you want to support us in our new endeavor. Stop by. Here's our Etsy store and take a look around and see if there's something in there that you'd like to get. And all of a sudden, she said, we're getting a bunch of orders. Like, where are these coming from? I'm like, I couldn't say. I can't tell you, but I played it off like, hey, I don't know anything was going on, but I was actually helping. But that's what kicked things off. And it's just grown. And we've gotten into markets and we've gotten into different pop-up stores. We're constantly making new products. We've got people that are ordering wholesale from us now. That's crazy. Getting an order for like 50 lip balms. It's like, good thing we have a little jig that we can put these things in and melt the stuff down and pour it and get it out. But it's a blast. And I never thought that we'd be doing something where it's manufacturing and it's fulfillment and it's logistics and it's supply chain. We're doing supply chain stuff. Like you got to get 35 pounds of coconut oil. Well, it's going to be here in 8 days. Okay, so we got to structure our time and our data, know what we're making when. It's like, what? But it's so much fun. And just like what I'm doing with the podcasting, we're blessing the world in this way. And there's a lot of people out there that need what we're doing. And we're trying to get it out as fast as we can. And we're building our tribe. We've got hundreds of people that know us. We've got hundreds of people that have bought from us, that are telling people about us. And it's like, this is really cool. We don't resonate with everybody, but the people that really, really like us, they're like diehard fans. We've even got some of them that are affiliates. They're selling on our behalf. So they're bringing sales into us. Helps lighten the load tremendously. Man, it's
That's
exciting.
awesome.
Yeah, never thought I'd be doing this when I grew up, and she didn't either. She didn't plan on being a business owner. Neither of us did, but she's newer to it than I am. It's wild.
The affiliate stuff, right? I love that because, coming out of COVID, people making money online, it's becoming more complex to make money online, making money in marketing and social media and affiliate marketing. How can the everyday person find one little niche they can make a little extra money to be able to help pay their bills? Because right now it's tough for a lot of people to be able to pay their bills with the cost of living going up. So affiliate stuff, that's one thing that is so I think important for the everyday person to become more aware of, because there are so many different ways that you can find something that you love and find other people that also love it and be able to maybe make some extra revenue with connecting those people to the right products and in those affiliate links. So like if somebody goes to your website and they want to become an affiliate, like how does that work for your guys' products online?
Well, first, it's super easy. So if you go to exactlyzero.com, right at the top, if you're on desktop, it's going to say become an affiliate. If you're on mobile, just tap the hamburger, the menu, open it up, and there's an option in there. But what we ask for when someone wants to become an affiliate, just let us know a little bit about you. Like, do you have experience with this? What's your following like? What are your goals? What do you want to do? And if we don't know you already, we'll probably schedule a conversation, have a chat, and see if we can learn more about you. But once you're approved, you get a unique link. And actually, right before this call, I was using some of my skills with automation and stuff, nerd stuff. We can say the N word on this show, right? Can I say nerd? Okay, okay.
You know what? For this show, you can, but
For
not.
for this show, but oh my goodness, man. But yeah, I was doing a little bit of nerd stuff, and I was combining some automation tools with some graphic uh, automation stuff that I wrote. Where if you've got a QR code, if you've got a unique affiliate link, generate a QR code, stick it on a particular place on an image, and then take all of those images and email them to each affiliate. Say, hey, we got a new graphic for you. Go ahead and use it in your outreach. Here's a blurb if you want to paste this in. We want to make it so stinking easy for people to sell on our behalf. Like, we don't want to make people have a full-time job, but if we can make it push button easy for them to share about what we're doing and direct traffic to our website, and then, we'll take care of producing and shipping and all that stuff, and then just send 20% of the revenue over to the affiliate. That's like our little ecosystem. And I think we've got like 12 or 13 affiliates right now, but man, we can have like 200, and it wouldn't take any more effort on our part to keep all the affiliates in the loop. We're going to be busy making soap and lip balms and sunscreen and stuff, but that's the problem we want to have anyway. So,
That's awesome. So, random question for you. You
okay.
mentioned the podcast being able to help with your secret sauce, locate the people that coach in terms of their target demographic or their target client, right? And you have the ability to kind of match that client to the problem that coach solves. So, is there any synergy with that system to be able to increase your network on exactly zero?
Dude, yes, there is. And I am working on a podcast for that right now. So, yeah, that's not
Okay,
random at all. I'm glad that's where you went. Like, hey, what if you smash these things together? Absolutely. That's, you know, um, we had an opportunity a couple months ago to have our own radio show for a little bit, and we were gifted 12 episodes by a lady, real good friend of ours, and she's awesome. And later on, I went back to her and I said, I'm not sure we're radioing right. Like, what should we be doing? Because we haven't made any sales off of this radio show. And she said, Fritz, you need to start a podcast. And I said, great. I said, that's like my love language. I can crank those out like nothing. What kind of podcast? And so we had a strategy session right there. And she said, if you can make a podcast and have people on to talk about this kind of stuff, then the call to action afterward could be come to the website, purchase a product, become an affiliate, do fundraising, whatever it is. And then you start to build your network that way. And I said, well, shoot. I said, I'm not beating myself up, but why didn't I think of this before? Because you would think, hey, I've got a business over here doing podcasting and like just never crossed my mind to make a podcast about clean living. So that's what I'm working on. And it's
that's
still in its
awesome.
infancy. Yeah. But it's like, hey, I can eat my own dog food. I can talk about this kind of stuff with people. I'm out in the truck anyway. I can do podcasts with coaches for my own show and then switch over and do a podcast with some, yoga expert or something like that and talk about what they got going on. So it's a great way to build a network. I guess if there's one takeaway, it's an amazing way to network. You will not believe how deep of a relationship you'll have after having someone on your show and just getting the chance to learn about them. I've had people on a previous show I had on years ago. I had like 4 podcasts at one time, man. I'll do anything in moderation. And there was a guy I interviewed. His name was Reverend Fred Shaw. And he was sharing some things about his childhood, about some spiritual like experiences that he had. And he's like, I've never shared this with anybody. He's like, I'm not sure why I'm sharing it with you. He's like, but I feel like I can share it with you. I'm like, I got an honest face, bro. I don't know what to tell you. But, just being able to be there and be present and listen and have good conversations with people, man, they'll open up and they're going to remember you. You're going to be more top of mind as a result. So, yeah,
I
I
love
hope
it.
to never, I hope to never stop podcasting, man. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, all of the cool, interesting, driven people that you meet, and what's crazy is that I don't want to bring up Twitter because it can be a polarizing thing, but Twitter's opened up, and a lot of people out there that are being able to get their voice shared more, less shadow banning, and probably other things too. Um,
Right,
but less people are relying on the traditional news media outlets, and people creating their own news, creating their own content is becoming more common. And this is the way of the future, right? I mean, you're going to be relying less on the traditional outlets and more on in the moment real people, creating their own
right.
stuff. I just think it's such an interesting topic and industry to be in, and it's only gonna grow. Like you said, 500,000 unique shows gonna be produced that haven't even been thought of for
Yeah, isn't that
2023.
nuts?
Yeah. Of course, I don't know where they come up with that number, but I'm sure it's going to be a big number like that.
Yeah,
Um, but very, very interesting. And like you said, the technology is becoming simpler, and the technology to be able to then spit it out into the other social media outlets is just really takes it next level because you can get those shorter clips out to more people and, like you said, digest it quickly to see if they want to spend more time on it. It's just such an interesting thing
Yeah.
to dig into. So I know we're running out of time soon. Any other advice or ideas or things you want to share to somebody that's got their passion and thinking about, do I spend time on this or not?
Yeah, my advice is just start. I spent a lot of time fretting about, oh, what if I do it wrong? Listen, newsflash, you're gonna do it wrong the first time, okay? It's like sex. Nobody ever gets it right the first time. Nobody. It's gonna be messy, it's gonna be crazy, but you're gonna learn as you go. And the more that you act on your inclinations, and I'm not talking about sex now, I'm talking about podcasting.
Okay.
The
Okay. Got
more
it.
that you, right, it's like clarification. The more that you act on your inclinations and try and give yourself the permission to experiment and see what works and what doesn't, you're going to be in a lot better shape. Okay. You mentioned Joe Rogan before. I don't remember what the show format was like. I don't know what it was like back when he first started. Everybody who knows the name knows what his show is like now. It didn't always work like that. Okay. You get to that point. And man, Joel, one day, maybe you're going to have a whiz bang studio. Maybe you're going to be like, hey, I'm at my kitchen table right now. But a year from now, hey, man, you can buy yourself a Ford F-150 and have amazing acoustics. So, but yeah, just try some things. And it's all part of that journey. It's part of the learning journey. You're getting out there. The vast majority of people are going to be like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But if you're part of the 1% or the 0.01% of people that say, you know what, I don't care what the world thinks, I'm going to get out there, do it, do the thing. And you've got our support.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, like, I love to hear your story and how you put this all together and how you've taken the service that you provide to your clients and because at the end of the day, like I know I'm in my job, like I'm dealing with chaos every single day, within the mortgage industry. So if I'm paying for a service, especially for something like, a podcast or anything else that's you're using to be able to build your business or brand, like you want it to be on autopilot. I don't want to think about it. I just want to do it and not to think about it. Right. And so
Right.
to have a service that you guys provide that you just put on autopilot, that's just badass, badass. So cool. So last thing. So goals, levels they're trying to get to for 2023. If we're going to revisit and say in 6 months, what do you envision yourself wanting to talk about at that point in time?
Oh, I want to be able to talk about rich people problems. I would love to increase our revenue to the point where it's like we have more money than we know what to do with. I mean, my wife and I, we've got some philanthropic goals where we want complete financial and time freedom, where we can like go for a month and do missions work and come back and both businesses are running fine. Right. So hopefully in 6 months, I can come back and say, dude, man, we went to Thailand for like a month and like did cool things and now we're back. So I don't know. Or I don't know, Georgia, somewhere. We'll
That's
figure
awesome.
something out. We'll figure something out, man.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Alex Ramosi is somebody that I follow online on Twitter. He's a billionaire by now. He put a tweet out a couple days ago. Solve rich people's problems. They pay better.
Yeah,
You put it
truth.
like that, it's like shit. Okay, now then, how do you go find some people that are more wealthy to help them with their problems? Like that's the way that type of thinking is how those people get to where they are. If you want to be able to get ahead like that, you got to think differently. So
That's right.
anyway, we can
That's
talk about
right.
that all day. But thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us. I can't wait to have you back on again, and we'll be talking soon. But Michael Fritzius, thank you again, and appreciate your time.
Anytime, man. Take care.
All right, take care.
Yep.